Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another straight up solo list. In this episode, we are going to talk about my F tier list of solo board games. So these are my worst, okay? Not every one of these games is horrible, but some of them are, in my opinion, pretty bad. And so I want to apologize to anybody right off the bat when I dump on one of your games you like. Okay, because I'm sure there'll be somebody, and it's not an if, it's a when. I'm sure there's some games in here that people like, and they just did not work for me. They are F tier for a reason, and these are games that I regret really purchasing from a solo perspective. I want to say that again. Some of these games might be really good from a multiplayer perspective, but we're talking about solo games. So this is another list in no particular order. I'm just going off of how I thought about it. First one was Oros. So Oros was, it looked like it'd be a fun game, and it was okay. But I played it once, and I wasn't really willing to try it again. It was very fiddly, and maybe it'd be better in multiplayer. I don't know. But I played it like, oh, that's kind of interesting, you know, and then I never picked it up again because it just, I don't know, it was not a compelling enough experience for me to want to play again solo. So Oros, not a recommendation from my standpoint. Here's another one which I knew better, and I should not have bought, which is Daybreak. Should not have bought this. It's very derivative. I've already played played games like this, been there, done that, all that stuff. This was just a mistake on my part, and I sold it not too long after playing it and finally winning it once. It only took me a couple times to win solo, and I'm not saying I won on hard difficulty or anything like that, but just like, what did I do here? This was foolish. Should have known better. All right. Age of Civilization. Was hoping for a fun little puzzly game, so to speak. It's little. I wouldn't say it's fun. It may be puzzly. But that one I bounced off pretty hard. Played it one time, two times maybe. Tried again, and I was like, no, gotta go. Fleet the Dice game is not a bad game. Fleet the Dice game suffers from what I would call like almost being too balanced. It felt like in that game for me, this is another one Fleet Dice game, but it felt like I was just going through the motions and I could have gone in all sorts of different directions. For the most part, the choices weren't that interesting. It was okay. I even bought the app later, enjoyed the app just because it's a little bit easier to play, but I never thought it was a really compelling solo experience. Now, this one was a huge mistake, and this is my fault. Dragons of Eitchinstone. Now, that's how you say it. You know what? I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, it's a very limited game. It's handheld, and there's a gimmicky thing to that, but it's extremely limited and kind of frustrating to play. The puzzle aspect of it was there, but it was neither enjoyable nor enticing. I felt like I was, trying to tune up these cards, but it really was not very good. There's better games out there that are more enticing for sure. Palm Island was better, and that's a handheld game. The other one was, Maiden's Quest? Maiden's Quest was a lot better handheld game. This was just not that fun at all. Should have known better, wasted money on it, and wasted it on the expansion too, which I never even played. And I don't know, just not for me at all. Age of Galaxy I thought was going to be better than Age of Civilization. It was a little better, but it was still very limited in scope. And what do I expect? I don't even know why I bought that game. It just did not do it for me. Played it twice. Was like, this was a forgettable thing. No, that was it. And again, all these games on this list, I purchased with my money. So a lot of this is like a running tally of regrets. So trust me, it's not just me dogging on a game that I played once or whatever. I know I purchased my money for it. I thought these were going to be good, and I made a mistake. All right, the next one. This one really frustrated me because it was clearly a half-baked effort for solo. In fact, I was really frustrated. It's one of the few games that I gave a terrible review, and it was because it was terrible solo, and that was Age of Inventors. This game looked cool. It had cool-looking components. It had a cool theme. And it was clearly not play tested enough to be a solo game at all. And there was gaping flaws. I was very frustrated. That was a Kickstarter fail on my part, and sold it immediately after playing it once. This next one was I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like this game. Well, I'm sure there's a subset of people who would like this game. I don't know why I purchased it. It was boring and repetitive, and that was by Stealth and Sea. Thematic, yes. Boring, absolutely. And also very repetitive and limited in scope. I don't know why. I just, I keep getting drawn to GMT games that are a little bit different, that can be played solitaire, and I'm like, oh, this could be cool. And this was not one of them. It was just not cool. It was boring, and the dice rolling was exciting. It was one of the biggest disappointments I bought that year, and I was just I played it once or twice, and it was just like, this is it. I just don't know what I was doing here. Maybe a good simulation and thematic game. I think that's, if people like that kind of thing, maybe they would find it, but it wasn't even very much of a simulation, just more of a thematic game. So that was a mistake. Here's one that I really wanted to love, but just could not, and that was City of Kings. The City of Kings was a punishing Euro puzzle-y kind of solo game. It wasn't just solo, it was multiplayer or whatever. But I was constantly crushed in that game. And I don't mind losing games. I lose a lot of solo games I play. But this one I felt like, everything I do, it's so overwrought, and I don't get any enjoyment out of it, and I'm still going to get trounced over and over and over again. So finally sold that one after several attempts to try to enjoy it and like it. Just did not. This game told me that not all tower defense games are really for me, especially this one. It was Dawn of the Zeds. I know this is the second edition. I know a lot of people love that game, but I found it so punishingly difficult and just complex enough to not remember how to play it between sessions, that I always had to relearn it again. And then I played it and I got my butt kicked, and it was like, why? The State of Siege thing is theoretically cool, but I did not appreciate it in the Dawn of the Zeds. I finally sold that one. That was an unfortunate regret for me. Now, that's funny I say that. Maybe I was just reading the list subconsciously. Deep Regrets was a majorly deep regret for me to get it from a solo perspective. It could be very cool and fun from a multiplayer standpoint. I don't have people really that are going to play a lot of multiplayer games, so I'm very selective when it's time to. That wasn't one I would do. And it was a boring catalog solo experience. And you know what? This, again, I can't blame the designer, because they were not hiding any of that. They said the solo game is going to be completely different. It's going to be about fun, basically catching different fish and trying to, get that done and catch all the fish. Well, that's great, except there's zero tension in that. And I don't understand why I bought that game. I thought it looked cool from the theme, but it was just very, very drab and unexciting when you played it solo or just trying to catch different fish. And yeah, you got different rewards. You could upgrade different things, but it didn't matter because there's no compelling reason to play, in my opinion. So deep regrets, huge deep regret on my part for getting that one. This was a very uninspired, uninteresting game, in my opinion, and that was Epoch, Early Inventors. It was okay at best. It had old mechanics. It had this kind of upgradable tech tree kind of thing, but I played it maybe even just once, tops twice, and was like, it's not enticing. It's not exciting solo. This was a mistake. And I held on to it for a while. I never went back to it and finally sold it. Now, this next one, I think would probably be superb multiplayer. But as a solo player game, it was too much effort for the enjoyment, and that was Hegemony, or Hegemony, however you want to say it. I think a lot of great thought went into this game. And if you had 4 people who wanted to play it together, I think it could be really cool, because I think it was a well-designed game. It just wasn't very fun for me solo. I played it in a couple different ways and was like, I put in a ton of effort and I'm not seeing the reward on this game for me. I'm going to end up letting it go. And I sold it pretty quickly after I realized that. Not a bad game at all, just not for me. So I regretted it because it cost me a bunch of money, and I shouldn't. I guess that was one I couldn't see coming. So I was a little bit stung by it. All right. This one I knew better. But I bought it when I was just looking for a new game, and I hate it when I do that. I really do, because it leads to usual me deciding to get something that looks okay and then not liking it, and that is Lunar Rush. Now, I kind of feel bad a little bit about Lunar Rush because I bet it is a good multiplayer game. And the reason I feel bad is I kind of gave it a kind of a sop, not the greatest review. And the designers say, thanks for trying our game. And that I don't want to be mean to games that people put a lot of effort into. There was nothing wrong with Lunar Rush. It just wasn't that enticing for me to play because I've been there, done that for so many years. And here they're coming up for an expansion, so they must have sold well if they have an expansion, which is good. But from a solo standpoint, it was way too familiar for me. The logistics puzzle was okay, but it did not really do it for me too much. Here's a couple that go together, and I will put them both here. This is Now or Never and Near and Far. I think I played Near and Far first. Didn't really like it much at all. Sold it pretty quickly. Tried Now and Never because I thought it was going to be a little better from a mechanic standpoint. Sold it after one game. Really didn't like it very much. Yeah, I just don't think I jive with this designer's form of a game. I've played a lot of his other games too. Ended up selling every single one. Some played more than others. Some not very much at all. I just don't think I like the gameplay. That's all. Not bad. Artwork is, the fact that the guy has a one-man show is very good from a standpoint of artwork and story and gameplay. It's just, it wasn't solo. No, not for me. All right. And this is one that had a lot of trappings that made me think that I really would like this game. And yet, for whatever reason, I found myself stressed out and not enjoying playing it when I was playing it. That is Sierra West. Don't ask me why. I did not have fun playing this game at all. I tried. There's multiple different versions. In the box, you can do different things with different flavors. I just didn't like it. I felt like it provided... I love angsty games, but this one wasn't fun for me. I don't know why. It caused me stress, and I didn't like it, and I sold it. It had beautiful artwork. Probably a good game multiplayer. Probably a good game for somebody else solo, just not for me. Now, here was one that was kind of heartbreaking. This is an interesting game that was a great game until the very end. And then it fell apart, and that's Sanctum. Sanctum had a solo mode you could download, and the whole game is fun until you get to the very last battle, which you think should be climactic and everything else, but it ends up being a drag. I liked the process of getting there, and then every time I got there, it was like, oh, this is just, it goes on for a while, and there's nothing exciting here. I'm just trying to survive, beat this thing. But it was missing what made it fun in the first place, which was kind of like the loot and build up. And I can't put my finger on why that is, because I can't really think exactly of how else I would do a game like that. It set out to be a Diablo board game, and it felt like one, but just at the end, it was just... Ugh. So, yeah, Sanctum, I would not recommend that for multiplayer, or for solo player, pardon me. Okay, here's one that a lot of people like, and I even bought the app, and I never played the app more than once or twice, and that's Roll Player. There's nothing wrong with this game. It's totally fine. It's a puzzle game. It's a dice drafting game. It's a card, set collection game. It's fine. But I put it in the F tier because from a solo perspective, I just really thought it lacked any tension. It was just like a min-max kind of thing, which it already is in the first place, but when you play it solo, it's just... bleh. So, Roll Player was not for me. Here's one that I should have known better, and this game probably is phenomenal if you have a good group who wants to play the same game over and over, and that's Oath. Oath is they talk about building it and stories and this and that, and I bet the process of Oath is really good with a devoted group of players, but from a solo standpoint, it was so uninteresting because there was no compelling reason to play it. Because the game evolves over time, it's almost like you needed the extra players to evolve with you and see how things change. And when you're just playing against the bot, there wasn't that feeling. And that was my fault because a lot of people panned it from solo, and I still wanted to try it because I liked some of the other games the designer had done. But this was just not for me, and it was not a good solo experience, in my opinion. This one was a knockoff, which I should have known. I shouldn't say knockoff, but it didn't land for me at all. And this was Paramedics Clear. It's a dice game, rolling game, solo. I could barely remember it. I played it once or twice and immediately sold it. It just was not that fun. plain and simple. Now, here's a game where this next one, boy, did I try. I tried and tried and tried some more. Pax Transhumanity. I really wanted to like this game. I did. But I felt like the solo was just a constant butt-kicking contest where I was the stooge getting knocked around, having no chance to win. Now, there might be a way to do it. I'm sure there is. But it seems so difficult, and the game was so complex because the rule book was so opaque. And that also goes into my next two, which I'll tell you in a second. But so opaque, I worked so hard to learn that game. I even made a tutorial video of how to play it because I wanted to remember how to do it. And yet I never really enjoyed it. Thematically, kind of looked cool, but boy, in execution, just a punching fest with my face as the target from a solo standpoint. And that could also be said the same in Iceland and Greenland. Two other games, same designer, same impossible rule book, just very difficult to learn and understand and play. And, you know, I know Philip Alcond is probably a genius, and I love his High Frontier for All. But even that, which is a very good game, constantly evolves from a solo standpoint. And people could say they're making so many versions of the living rules. Like, doesn't that mean that the game is never really finished right? And they're probably right. There's probably things that need, just weren't balanced enough. But anyway, those three games, I had a miserable time playing them and sold every one of them. And I had a heck of a time learning them. This game got me from the theme and was so boring, I regretted it halfway through my first play. And that is the Cards of Cthulhu. DVG Games, I think it was. Had the old Cthulhu theme and everything, which, I liked that theme. I think it's kind of fun. But the gameplay was so uninteresting to me. I remember packing it up, being completely disappointed. Never played it again. Maybe I played it one more time. But went right to the sale pile after that. Just not for me. Here's another game that I had no business buying. I bought it because I was looking for a new game, and it was stupid. And that was 8 Epochs. It's a complete, simple, light dice rolling game, which would be fine if that's what you want. I don't know. Apparently, I don't know myself well enough when I bought this one because it was not fun at all. Played it once and packed it up and said, that was a huge mistake. You should know better. Now, this one was a huge letdown. I thought this game was going to be great. It looked cool. It looked fun. It looked like a game that I would love and I'd play over and over, and it would be so interesting to discover things. But Founders of Gloomhaven was not fun and not a good game. And Gloomhaven was a great game, right? And I thought, oh, cool, city building kind of thing and everything. City building is really hard to do, and it's really hard to do well, and it's really hard to do well solo. This game, unfortunately, failed on all those fronts. I remember selling it and being extremely disappointed. I'm like, I thought this was going to be cooler, and it just wasn't. Now, here's another game where I played it for a little while and realized that this is the antithesis of what I don't like about pick up and deliver. And I tried it a couple times and realized this was a terrible mistake for me, and it is Sand. And the reason I don't like Sand is because it was so difficult to pick up and then get to where you needed to deliver. It was excruciating. It was so tough. When you compare it to other pick up and deliver games where you can pick up a lot of stuff and deliver it with smart play and at ease, this was like the complete opposite. In order to get where you needed to go, it felt like I was literally walking up a sand dune at a 70-degree angle. It was just not easy to do anything you wanted. And the bot was tough to deal with and it just clobbered you. It was just too much effort, and I sold that one. I was disappointed because I love pick up and deliver games. I'll say that. Because actually I've sold more pick up and deliver games than I've kept. But the ones that I do like, I really like, not Sand. Okay, this is a very old game that I bought shortly after my first solo cooperative game, I should say. And this is Red November. I remember buying this relatively soon after I bought Pandemic because I was like, oh my gosh, there's games like this. This would be great. Let me try this one out. And Red November was just not fun in the least. It was not fun in the least. I played it once or twice and was just, I can't believe how much I don't like this game, and I sold it. One of the first games, I mean, I owned that game years ago. One of the first games I actually sold was that one. Okay, here's another one where I'm pretty sure this was like one of the first crowdfunders I did. Not the first, but one of the first. And it was not a good game solo, and that was Wok Star. Maybe Wok Star would be better with more people or as a multiplayer game. I don't even know how many. Maybe just straight up with 2 people. But as a solo game, it was a real snoozer, and I did not enjoy it at all. Here's one that's going to kill everybody. I know it. Because there's so many people out there like, how could you say this? This is the one that's going to insult everybody, and that's Terraforming Mars. I put this on my F tier because I just don't find the mechanic that much fun when you're playing solo. And I mean that because there is a good game there, multiplayer, although I do think it's a little dry and it drags a little bit and it's a little repetitive. But solo, in order to win, you had to do, half the cards seemed like they would just be complete wastes. They were just, you had to get all these objectives done in such a short amount of time. You really couldn't explore much of the game. It was clearly about figuring out what was going to waste your time and what was essential and trying to get the right strategy to fire on all cylinders at the right time. And it was a very narrow experience from a standpoint of a solo game to win. And ultimately, I sold it because I'm like, this just isn't interesting to me. I can clearly see how these cards that are worth points but not progress are going to be useless. And that was a lot of them. And I didn't like that feeling. I also didn't like the feeling of having a whole bunch of different costs to pay and stuff without anything more enticing to do with that. It just seemed like, well, this card takes this, and that card takes that, and this card takes this and that. And it's, and it just, there was a big deck of cards, so you never knew exactly what you were going to get. It just wasn't for me from a solo standpoint. I know that people love that game, so I apologize. And I apologize for people who like the solo. I even bought the app because I like the multiplayer version more, but I confess I don't play it very often because it's still a game where you are just playing cards and kind of just maxing, really. I don't know. It's missing something for me. So I'm not dogging on the game itself. It's just not for me. So that's the story there. Now here's one that fell flat for me is Your Best Life. I thought this was going to be cool. I found it less than cool. I found it really boring for whatever reason. I played it once or twice and just said, this is not enticing enough. I could see I could focus on this a little bit and go that way. It was a sleep fest, and I ended up selling it quickly. All right, here's one where I thought I'd really love it. And this game was so dry, it makes the Sahara Desert look like a water paradise, and that was Arkwright, the card game. Holy cow, was this game dry. I mean, mechanically dry to a fault. I like dry games. I don't care. I like a lot of dry games. But this one was just, I don't know. I don't know at all. I wanted it to be a shorter, better, or more compact, succinct version of Arkwright, which was cool, but had no good solo. So I ended up selling that one a long time ago. But this game was immediately disappointing. I played it twice, realized, I'm sorry, I just can't chew this. I spit it out. Sold it. All right, this game wasn't a bad game, but it told me that I don't like dudes on a map solo games very much, and that's Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. And I even got the expansion for it too, which I later regretted. But dudes on a map is the kind of way that people usually talk about these kind of games. Is just not as much fun when it's solo because there's a lot of prioritizing of where they go, where they do this, where they do that. It doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel like the multiplayer, and it's a lot of work to do those bots, and I don't appreciate it. So I ended up selling Rurik, Dawn of Kiev, and it was definitely a good game. It was a nice looking game. There was lots of stuff to like about it. Just didn't land for me solo. Had to go. This one should have been more fun, and I just could not wring the fun out of it. And I tried. I squeezed it. And that is the Colonists. The Colonists, I can't even imagine would be fun multiplayer because it's so long and procedural. But I couldn't get into it from a solo standpoint either because it got to the point where you were just to get the chain stuff going on, it just seemed like it went on and on and on and on and on. And it still came down to you were just trying to maximize what you needed to do to get these types of citizens. There was, I think, more along the lines of it was just so overwrought for me. that you had to build the board and you had to do this. There was just a lot of stuff. A game I think does it a lot better is Anno 1800, but you have to buy or you have to find the expansion for solo or the solo mode or whatever, because that game is in similar ways, but I find it more compelling. And in a lot of ways, you could say, well, that's just a streamlined version. And yes, it is. And that's why I think it's better, because it takes out some of the unnecessary things that just weren't much fun. I didn't like moving around to the different locations and trying to get the actions done that way. That was just not enjoyable to me. So anyway, the Colonists, I had to let go. Red Rising. Red Rising was the first game I think that I got from Stonemaier Games where I'm like, everything that Stonemaier does is not going to be a winner for me. And that was it was fine, but solo-wise, it just felt a little bit, I don't know. I mean, the solo game was okay. It wasn't completely pasted in there, but I just didn't find the joy of playing that game. And when it was a cool set collection in some ways, but in other ways it was just, I don't know, so forgettable. I barely remember the way that game worked, and it wasn't that long ago that I had it. So Red Rising, solo, no thanks. Captains of the Gulf was a huge disappointment for me solo, and that's because I experienced everything the game had to offer in the first game I played. It was like, well, really? So basically, that's it. I mean, that's it. There's nothing else to do. There's nothing else. I'm not saying I mastered it. I felt like I got a flavor for every possible thing that you could focus on, and it just was like, this is severely underwhelming. And I sold that one after one or two plays, because I realized the second play, like, this didn't get any more fun. It got worse, less fun. Sold that. Okay, I know a lot of people love this game. I am not one of them. Under Fallen Skies. I played it enough to realize there was no way I was getting through the campaign because it just was boring to me. I didn't like the fact that the dice rolls were a major factor in what you're doing. And yes, I'm not saying there wasn't strategy and things like that, but it just did not cut the mustard for me at all. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Nope, I'm going to sell this right now. Roam and Roll was a game that I thought I would like a lot, and it fell into this category of this middle to middle heavy dice roll and write game, and ultimately I did not like it. I played it once. I'm like, okay, now that I learned, I'll play it again. I think it'll get better, and it didn't. It stayed kind of too heavy for what it was, and not enough fun for what it was, and it was a dud in my opinion. I sold that one pretty quickly. I never know if I'm saying this right, but this is the Freeman Freeze Fiereband. It was the one about the working less, like you were trying to get yourself working out of a job, so to speak. And there was another game that I can't even remember, also similar in fashion from a solo standpoint, which was about it was I can't even think about it. It also started with an F, which doesn't narrow down at all. Futopia, maybe it was. Both of those games, no fun to play solo. I really didn't like them. It's funny. Freeman Freeze, with Power Grid so many years ago, was just like, oh my gosh, this guy's a genius. And what he is he's a very creative game designer. But that doesn't mean his games are always that fun. They are interesting. They are creative. They are it's like when you look at a book of a list of classic books or classic movies. I don't know how those get in that, because, somebody's like, this is an awful story. This is an awful movie. Awful. How is this a classic? But yet it was because of, it was creative or this or that or whatever, or somehow people saw. And I feel like that's the kind of designer he is. Now, he has made some amazing games. I still like Findorf a lot. I love Power Grid. Always have. Too bad you can never play it solo. But I mean, and so some of the games that he does is just like, wow, that's it. You captured what I was looking for. A lot of the other times it's like but I will tell you this, the guy's a nice guy. I've actually bumped into him a couple times at Essen. And so I don't dog on him at all, because I love that he is willing to try something new all the time. They don't always strike with me. And I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I think he makes games that he finds interesting, and for that I applaud him. I just didn't like Fierebrand, and I didn't like Futurtopia from a solo standpoint. Okay, these next two games go hand in hand. They are both impossible. They're both very heavy. They are both very unfun, in my opinion, and that's Navajo Wars and Camancheria. Both of those games are very true to the source material. It's like they made a game trying to really capture what was going on. And I respect that, but I found that the difficulty of playing those games was not only brutal, but it was also hard to do and really hard to know, it seemed like every turn I was doing something wrong, or I was coming up short, or I wasn't drawing the right cube or whatever. Those games are really tough. You really have to be devoted to a game to probably enjoy those, because you have to play it a lot. You have to be very smart. You have to be very strategic, and you have to be lucky in some cases with the way that bag draw system worked in Navajo Wars. Just didn't appreciate it. I thought Camancheria was a little better, but still tough. All right. Second to last, Pendulum. Pendulum would have been a cool multiplayer game from Souls game. It just missed. And it's not that it was bad. It was just, it wasn't exciting to play. That's all there is to it. It was more fun multiplayer, but didn't like it from a standpoint of solo. Now, my last game I think was a total dud. I know there's people out there that like the new and improved version, but I played the first version of this, and it was awful, and I regretted the money I spent, and I thought it was horrible from a Souls standpoint. There was no point in playing, and that was Myth. Now, I don't know where we are these days. Myth 2.0, Myth 2.5, Myth 3, whatever. But the original Myth was a disaster, in my opinion. The rulebook was very hard to understand. But what was really hard to understand was what was the point of playing the game. You basically set up this scenario and tried to survive. I don't know. That is not a kind of game for me. And there are a lot of people who were devoted to it and liked it. At least I think they got better. It got better, but the first game I couldn't believe. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get what I'm doing this for. There was no if I remember correctly, maybe there was some kind of campaign or character progression, but it was limited, or it was very much like you had to figure it out yourself. Myth was almost like a game that somebody who really likes Dungeons and Dragons, and creating your own story was like, let's make a game with miniatures and these very heavy rules and all this other stuff and make it into a board game. But the game itself will just be self-evident of why you want to play it. And I could not figure out for the life of me why I'd want to actually set it up. It just didn't feel like there was any real purpose, no goal, nothing driving you forward, not a lot to explore, not a lot. I mean, maybe there was stuff to explore, but it was all opaque. So that one was my bottom of the barrel. Probably one of the, because it was expensive too at the time. It was well over $100. And this was many years ago where $100 games were really expensive. Nowadays, I have to raise that to $300 games or whatever because of the way things get overwrought on Kickstarter. But that one was a huge miss for me and a regret. Those are my F tier games. There are other bad games that I didn't mention on there that I would still consider F tier, but I can't think of them. I couldn't think of them while I was writing this. And I will say this. Few of these games, but there were, and I mentioned them, I would consider were bad, objectively. But all of these games were regrets. I sold every one of them. I wish I had never bought them. I wish I had never played them. That sounds harsh. But I wasted my time and my money. So there are some on here that I know people like. I apologize to you for trashing your game that you appreciate. This is my opinion. Only one or two would I say objectively bad, and I made that clear. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. My last tier video coming up will be the S tier, the superior ones. These are games that I find will be the best of the best, and they are at a class all above the rest of them. But that was not what this video about. This was F tier. This is a buyer beware. So thank you very much. If you watched to the end, I really do appreciate it. Thank you. And I will put in the description all these games because people have been asking for that. So that I'll put the list there. And I'm not doing timestamps. Sorry. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. Whatever you do in the future, I really hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy.